Some of the best minds in the world bringing you some of the best knowledge on TRS Clips. Let's dial back a little bit into the 80s and the 90s. What finally led to America so-called winning the Cold War?
So there's a whole chain of events. What happened was the Soviets would call it ideological dilution. So you had leaders coming in. Stalin was the big strong man, the Iron Man. And he was adamant about his ideological superiority, that our ideology is the best ideology. And we have an ideological counter to the Western capitalism. So there was this strong ideological indoctrination among the Russian population, among the elites, among the KGB, among the spies, the NKVD, whatever. After Stalin died, I think it was Lavrentiy Beria. I mean, there are a couple of people. Yeah, Lavrentiy Beria was there for a while. Then you had Nikita Khrushchev, and each subsequent ruler made certain ideological concessions towards the West, that we are kind of ideologically kind of inferior. By the time we come to the 1980s, we have Mikhail Gorbachev who came to power. He introduced the policies of perestroika and glasnost about openness and transparency, and we will not be afraid to show where we are wrong and all that. While the Americans were always like, we are better, we are superior, we have done nothing wrong, we don't have any weaknesses. And the Soviets slowly started showing weaknesses. And the grip on power also in the 1980s kind of weakened. The grip of the Soviet Communist Party and the Politburo. Chernobyl happened. That kind of was a blow to the international prestige of the USSR. And the Russians kind of see Mr. Gorbachev as an agent of the West, that he precipitated the decline and the destruction of the USSR. So, long story short, by the 1990s, Mr. Gorbachev had lost his hold on power. And because of that, what happened is that there's various Soviet republics like Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan, etc., etc., etc. They all declared independence, Ukraine and so on. And there was a tremendous economic decline also, gradually, over time in the USSR. So they were not doing very well economically. The industries were not progressing. They were kind of decrepit to some extent and all. So all of these factors came together. And by the 1990s, the USSR was on the brink of disaster. And then you had there was this coup attempt and all that, which Boris Yeltsin is involved, Ruslan Khasbulatov is involved, Alexander Rutskoy, lots of other people from that time were involved in this. Mr. Gorbachev kind of abdicated power. There was this period of strife, conflict, turmoil. There was some shots fired, etc. And eventually the transition happened. Mr. Yeltsin came to power. He was a very pro-West guy. All the various Soviet republics broke off, became independent. They had their own strong men in place. And what Mr. Yeltsin did was that he destroyed the Russian economy. What he did, for 60, 70 years, the Soviet economy was a collectivized economy. The entire wealth of the people was in the custody of the Communist Party. Now the Communist Party crumbled. Mr. Yeltsin came to power, which means that all the wealth, all the industries, everything of the people, all of their savings for decades were in the hands of this one person. What he did was he created the system of oligarchs. His various favorite cronies, he handed various industries over to them. And these guys proceeded to destroy these economies, these industries. They ruined these industries. They ran them into the ground. And by the time Mr. Yeltsin was done, the Russian economy was gone, destroyed. There were long lines for food, for bread, for soup, all these things. There was rampant unemployment. The Soviet military was destroyed and so on. And then you have the expansion of NATO that we have spoken about in the past. So that's kind of the inflection point, the fall of the Berlin Wall, the 90s. Then you had things happening in Afghanistan, in India, Kashmir, Pakistan. Pakistan has always been a client state of the US. All the Pakistani terrorism in India was funded and financed by the US. There's no other way of saying it, and so on. So there's a lot that was going on. And of course, there was the entire spy espionage game going on in the Cold War. 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s. The KGB was a very major power in this.
Thanks for watching. Make sure you check out the entire episode and also check out this playlist that we've curated just for you.